Namaste and welcome to everyone to the Purdue University's Mental Health Action Week. Today we have a special guest with us. He is none other than Swami Mukundananda ji. Swamiji is an international authority on mind management and a unique saint with a distinguished educational background. He received his degrees from two world renowned institutes, IIT and IIM. Swamiji is on a divine mission to help people lead truly successful lives. He has an exceptional ability to teach the wisdom of the ancient scriptures in the context of our modern life. He has conducted over 10,000 lectures, seminars, and workshops over the past 3 decades. He is the author of numerous best selling books on spirituality, yoga, self improvement, and healthy living. Swamiji is a direct disciple of Jagadguru Sri Kripaluji Maharaj, the fifth original Jagadguru in Indian history. He has founded JKYog, a non-profit organization dedicated to the betterment of humankind. He has also established over 80 congregational centers in India and in USA and is presently constructing the Jagadguru Kripalu University in Odisha, India, geared to offering world-class spiritual education in the fields of Vedic sciences, mind management, and holistic health. Swamiji pours his heart and soul into his enlightening and inspirational programs. He conducts seminars, workshops, and retreats all around the world, including at Ivy League universities and Fortune 500 corporations. His life transformation programs, youth leadership programs, Bal Mukund character building classes for children, and numerous books he has written are receiving accolades across the globe. Swamiji has inspired millions worldwide on the path of spirituality, holistic health, yoga, meditation, service to society, and self realization. We are very thankful that Swamiji is joining us today, and we welcome Swami Mukundanandaji to Purdue University and request him to address everyone on the topic mind management and work life balance as part of the Mental Health Action Week. Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swapna. I am delighted to join the members of the Purdue University community online today as a part of the Mental Health Action Week. It is a pleasure to connect with all of you today. Let me start off by relating a personal experience. I was at a Diwali gala dinner, and amongst the many performances that were being displayed on stage was one juggler who came up. He started juggling with a few knives. One knife would be thrown up in the air, and before he would catch it with the other hand, the second would go up, and then the third one. And as if that was not enough, the handicap kept on increasing, where he would throw one knife from behind his back and he would catch one from under his leg. The entire audience was on tenterhooks because it was so dangerous. If any of these knives misfired, he would be holding it with his hands, resulting in immense damage. But this juggler completed his increasingly difficult act without any kind of injury. He was a master in juggling. Modern life calls upon us to be jugglers, not of life, not of knives, but of different aspects of our human existence. We have to wear a variety of hats. You have to take care of your family relationships, your professional relationships, your social relationships, your romantic relation, etc., etc. This is just one aspect of your life, the relational aspect. Like that, there are so many others. And the problem is, in modern day world, one of these numerous balls that are up in the air for us to juggle around with has grown extremely big. This is the ball of work. In the modern day environment, we are loaded with immense responsibilities. It doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. The days when you punch in at 9 and punch out at 5 are gone. It is common to expect you to work beyond the regular hours, and there is a pressure to be available through the technology all the time. Added to it, the immense competition and the job insecurity. The consequences, you are practically working all day long, and the prior boundaries between personal life and work life seem to have gotten obliterated. The consequence is always a feeling of being overwhelmed. There is stress, tension, anxiety, which has an impact on health, which results in lack of satisfaction in personal relationships and a feeling that we are exhausted and burnt out. Hence, the question arises that, like the juggler with the knives, can we become experts in handling the various balls that we have up in the air? For starters, we can simplify this problem. There are a few key critical areas of your life that you need to get right. And then the others literally take care of themselves. But if any of these goes wrong, then life comes shattering down. The first of the balls is, of course, your professional life, which helps you take care of everything else. But then you also have your health. As the saying goes, health is wealth. It can be a constricting factor in the quality of your life experience. Then there is your relational aspect of your life. Further, there is the financial aspect. And finally, is the spiritual part, your sense of personal growth, fulfillment, and purpose. So these are the five primary balls that you will need to juggle with. And when we find that we are failing in any one of these, that experience of fulfillment and of joy gets robbed. I know a lady who rose practically to the top of the American corporate world, amongst the highest that any Indian woman has risen in American organizations. And I happened to meet her in her home, and she was relating her own lack of fulfillment. She said, Swamiji, in this process of pursuing professional success, I neglected taking care of my family, in particular my child. And now, when I find my child is sort of a derelict without sufficient resources and direction in his life, I feel I have not fulfilled my duty as a mother. Now, here is someone who realized that the juggling was not properly performed. So, how do we go about ensuring that we get our act together? Well, we need to have greater clarity on what our priorities are. If these priorities are unclear, it is natural that we will not dedicate sufficient time where it is required. So sometimes it's a very beneficial exercise to write down rather than merely analyzing in your head the priorities of your life, the various areas, and the relative values, possibly as numbers out of 10. So you have it all on paper. This is what is important to me. Subsequently, we need to understand that work life balance can never be perfect. You have to make the best possible arrangement for it. And this best possible arrangement will be different at different times. For example, if your family is visiting, then naturally that aspect has to be the focus. Or if there is an exam, a project, presentation that has come up, then naturally the professional aspect has to be given higher priority. So once we prioritize, we then try and execute our time in accordance with these priorities. Now, when it comes to executing, it is one matter to know what is to be done. It is another matter to live your life in accordance with it. That requires self discipline. So, here is where the need for mind management comes in. If we are masters of our mind, once we have clarity, we will be able to do exactly as we feel is important. And if our emotions are not under control, then what happens? You know something is wasteful. And yet it is so entertaining and so exciting that you are not able to resist it. So, in these five balls, one ball that so often gets missed out is the ball of spirituality. And people don't realize that without tending, nurturing their inner spirituality, one big problem arises. Our own self development gets neglected. The mind is then not within our control. And we may have a huge amount of professional success, but find that our happiness has got depleted. Let me give you the example of Howard Hughes. In his time, he was one of the richest persons in the world. And in fact, in some lists, he is included as being amongst the 50 wealthiest people in the world in history, corrected with inflation. So he had his own private airlines, and he was also the producer director of movies in Hollywood. He developed the reputation of being quite a Casanova and was linked to many of the heroines of his days. But as he got into his middle age, his mind started going more and more out of control. until he developed a huge phobia for germs. This phobia got to such an extent that he would feel that he is getting attacked by germs from the outside. So, on one hand, he had so much of wealth. When he went to Las Vegas to stay in the Desert Inn Hotel, he continued staying in the penthouse suite until the manager of the hotel got fed up and wanted him to leave. He purchased the entire hotel. He wanted to see old movies on the hotel television, and there was no such television station in Las Vegas offering the movies he wanted. He purchased a television station. So that was the amount of success he was having on one side. And on the other side, his mind was giving him so much of problem. He would seal his hotel room as a fortress from germs on the outside. And he would literally stay there isolated. And when he would live in his home, if he came to know that one of his household helpers had fallen sick, he felt there was an invasion of germs into his mansion, he would get his whole wardrobe burnt. His last 2 decades were spent like this. And when he finally died, he was practically a recluse with almost nobody able to meet him. Now, if the ball of spirituality had been properly held, it would have provided him with the necessary wisdom and tools to be able to handle the emotions and thoughts within, to lead a life of happiness and fulfillment. Ultimately, one more important thing in this mix is the purpose for which we are leading our life. I was once sitting in the veranda of a home in my native country, India, and there I saw an ant walking across the floor with a huge leaf which it was carrying. Ants are such creatures that can carry about 20 times their body weight. So I was admiring the courage and audacity of this ant to carry such a huge leaf until it came across a crevice on the floor. And there was no way the ant could go down with the leaf, walk the half inch, and then come up. But it was ingenious. It laid the leaf over the crevice, walked across, and continued its journey. I thought the ant is not only hardworking, it is also working smart. But then it encountered a problem. When it reached the crack from which it was supposed to go into the building, it discovered the crack was not big enough for the leaf that it was carrying. That was when, after having struggled for a full hour, it left the leaf there and then went in by itself. I thought this ant was not very intelligent. So, don't we also set ourselves up for that kind of mistake? Laying excessive importance to things that we know one day will have no value for us. For nothing is going to accompany us on our last journey. What will matter will be the quality of the life we led. How fulfilling was it? What did we accomplish in terms of making a difference to this world? And how we enjoyed and loved the journey of it. So, this is the one ball which the ball of spirituality. Now we need to balance all of these balls. So, how do you do it? There is no need to be too scared. Remember, as we move through this journey of life, we get better and better at it. You take after 30 years, many of the students who are listening today will be at the senior executive level. At that time, on the average, you'll have 1,000 balls with which you are juggling all the time. And yet, you come across executives who lead their lives with such fulfillment and so much of joy. So, how do they do it? Practice makes perfect. And that is why, when you starting off in the journey of life, you should not be afraid of making mistakes. You need to keep learning. So, having allocated your priorities to the different important areas of your life, start calibrating your efforts. When I spent 20 minutes every day on sustaining my health, I discovered it's going down. I need to up this. When I am spending 1.5 hours, it doesn't seem to make a greater delta difference. Probably I can reduce it. So, as you keep on calibrating, you keep on learning, keep on increasing the knowledge that you have, and adding to the armory of the tools and the wisdom that you possess. With experience, you grow better and better at it. So, this idea in this, I would love to explain to all of you how mind management can help you develop the control over your emotions, the self discipline you want, the willpower that you want, and the experience of joy that will make your life journey extremely blissful. But let's keep this as a little introduction, and I will leave it to the esteemed panel members today to jointly delve into the practical aspects of this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji, for your talk. I just want to start off with the question and answer session. And all of the questions that we have for you today were sent to us by Purdue students who registered for the event. So I will just go ahead and start off with the questioning.
Sure.
Um, the first question is, what is mind management and how can one nurture it?
All right. The mind is a subtle instrument that is fitted within us. The gross, the body, we are all aware of. The brain, also, we are aware of. But our ancient texts of wisdom inform us that there is this subtle instrument called the mind, which is constantly generating thoughts. And this factory of thoughts called the mind plays such an important role in determining our experience of happiness and distress. That is why you may be sitting in a very wonderful place in the midst of all opulence. But if your mind is disturbed, you will experience the torments of hell. On the other hand, you may be sitting in the midst of turbulence. But if you can bring your mind to peace, you will experience the celestial delights. That is why the Western philosopher John Milton had said, the mind is a place of its own, and in itself can make heaven out of hell and hell out of heaven. So, we people learn so many skills in life. We learn so much of knowledge in regard to the external world. But when it comes to our inner world, the orchestrating of our emotions, we do not pay sufficient attention to it. The consequences that many people find their emotions are not under their control. And even though they have external success, the emotions keep on troubling them from within. Sometimes they go on repeating like a broken record. Now, if we could learn how to manage the mind, we could then choose our emotions and our thoughts. Slowly, as we start mastering this art of mind management, we realize that our thoughts can become independent of the environment. And once we do that, we are no longer victimized by situations and circumstances. That is where mind management can play such a wonderful role. So, the first thing to practice in mind management is awareness. Become aware of your emotions. Sometimes people don't even realize they have too much of anger, which is arising again and again and again. The second is to take responsibility for your emotions and stop playing the blame game. I'm feeling like this because so and so said this to me. That is when you will realize the gap between the environment and your choice of thoughts. And the third is to learn to start controlling them. Now, when we get into this aspect of controlling, there are tools that the science of mind management offers, like self talk. Now, this mind, when not controlled, is like a soap opera where we are keeping on speaking to ourselves. What others say is less important, and what we constantly tell ourselves becomes more important. If somebody says, I just don't have it in me to succeed, I'm a gross failure, what will be the consequence? The subconscious aspect of the mind will get programmed with it, and it will sabotage our every effort to succeed. On the other hand, if we use the tool of self talk, we can program our mind to become our best friend. Hence, the Bhagavad Gita, an ancient book of wisdom, shares with us this gem of knowledge. It says, look, your mind has the potential to be your worst enemy, but it also has the power to be your best friend. So uplift yourself by the power of your mind. Do not degrade yourself. Start talking positively. One tool, another tool is visualization. Like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you can picturize the way you wish to be and hold that image for even a few seconds within yourself, your mind starts getting managed so strongly. And then we people are creatures of habit. When we repeat a certain physical behavior, it grows on to us as a habit. Similarly, when we repeat certain thoughts again and again, they create a habitual pattern which becomes a mindset. If our mindset is deleterious, it sabotages all our efforts. And those who find success, happiness, and fulfillment in their life, they, with effort, establish in themselves great and empowering mindsets. So, the science of mind management enables us to become aware of our emotions, enables us to take responsibility for them, and to reject the harmful ones while adopting the thoughts and emotions that truly enrich our life experience.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. And following up on the second question, it's very much related to the first question. So like you mentioned that oftentimes we miss the spirituality, and how can we practice it through self-discipline? And of course, like awareness, taking responsibilities, stopping this blame game, and start having the self-talk is very important. It's a very important component of self-discipline. But the question comes like, how do we manage and focus on ourselves and like have this mental concentration during tough times, during stressful times? So so it's like, how do we do it during stressful times?
Definitely, Geeta, focus is such an important thing that we should pay attention to developing our focus. I travel throughout America for many months every year. So I stay in the houses of so many of my devotees. And I was in somebody's house and I went to his son's room, who was a college student. And he had his book open, he was studying here. And right in front was the television, which was pouring forth some programs. So he was looking at the program and studying. So I had never seen anything like this. I said to my devotee that, what is he doing? He said, Swamiji, nowadays so many youngsters, they study with the television on. So do you think somebody can really focus when the television is going on? We have an attentional space. That attentional space can focus only on a limited amount of entities or units at one time. And that is why you find sometimes there is an attention overload. For example, suppose that you thought of going to your kitchen to do some work, and in the meantime, a phone call came, and you attended to the phone call. It's an important call and it draws your attention, as a result of which you become absent minded. When you reach the kitchen, you forget why you had come there at all. This was a case of overload of attention. And that is why they say that, look, don't text while driving, because driving requires your entire focus. And that is why if you start texting alongside, there's a great chance that you may land up in an accident. Now, the problem is that in today's world, we are multitasking. So you have your mobile, which the messaging software which is open, you have the emails that are coming in, there's the phone calls that come in, and then there is the social media, etc., alongside with the project that you have to prepare for office. The consequence is very simple. You cannot give your best to the work at hand. And instead of this, if we could train our mind to grow in focus, you would do work of far greater quality. And the stress that happens because of a divided mind, where you are working and a portion of the mind is worrying about the past or anxious about the future, that will also stop. So, what is the theory behind developing focus. Think about it. Why does our mind get distracted? It has a natural bias for finding gratification, for finding immediate entertainment. And when the work at hand becomes boring, that is when the mind wants a diversion. If your study book is open and it's become boring, the mind says, can I divert myself a little bit on the social media? And the problem is, the diversion provides the brain with a dopamine hit. Now, when you start taking that dopamine hit again and again, the state of your brain and mind changes. It's like an addiction, and your ability to concentrate reduces and reduces and reduces. But this whole process can be reversed, where you say, okay, I will now change the state of my mind, where after every 5 minutes it wants a diversion. Initially, it will be difficult, but as you apply yourself to the task, the mind will start coming to a state where its need or its claim for a diversion, for gratification reduces. And that's where you'll find that you can go on focusing at your work without distractions for long. So, to answer your question, focus can be developed through practice. Our brain is infinitely teachable. Just do a dopamine detox for 3 days. You will say the entire state of my personality is changed. That is the extent to which you can program it. And in youth, even more. However, that being the ideal state, presently, if we don't have that much of control over the mind, we need to take some physical steps as well. What does that mean? You shut out the distracting factors. Ensure that the places from which the distractions come, they are shut off. So rather than making yourself accessible to the WhatsApp or Skype throughout the day, you keep portion of the day that is dedicated for this work. Rather than allowing anybody to reach you at any time through email, you allocate a certain time interval when you check the email. So you then go about doing focused work. High focus work, after a little while you get tired. Never mind, change to a low focus activity. And then come back to a high focus activity. Then again go to a low focus activity. Again, you can calibrate yourself to optimize based on your abilities and the requirements required. So practice will make perfect when it comes to focus.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. It's such a beautiful explanation of what I asked. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Swamiji. Thank you for the enlightening talk. I really like the analogy of the juggler with the knives. And I feel that during this pandemic, we are juggling more knives. And all of your experience and advice will be really beneficial to help us juggle these knives. Moving forward with my question, the question is, how can we work towards a better work-life balance when our superiors ask us to go the extra mile, especially when they ask us to work overtime, work outside the 9 to 5, work 24/7, especially when we're juggling so many knives?
All right, Prateek. When our superior asks us to do something, very often we don't realize that we had an option to say no. It's like a programming. I have been told, and the only option I have is to obey. So remember, just because somebody is a boss or there's a company for which you work, it doesn't mean that the company owns you. You always have the options with you. And the fact that you are saying yes to your boss or superior means that you are saying no to something else. Because we all have 24 hours a day, we all have a limited fund of energy. So, for example, if somebody, the boss says you need to work an extra hour today, saying yes to the boss means denying the spouse of an extra hour of quality time, denying the children, the family, of the time that could be spent to them. If the boss says you need to put in the time in the weekend, it means you are saying no to all the activities that you had planned for the weekend. So every yes comes at a cost. That cost needs to be evaluated. So if you realize that the cost is too heavy, then possibly it's time to make a decision that I have to start saying no. Fortunately for us, no doesn't have to be said in those two letters. It can be put more politely and it can be explained to the superior. So, for example, you could say, I would love to do this work that you want me to do. But you have already given me 3 other works that I am working upon. And if I miss out on taking care of my health, the consequence will be it will not be a sustainable model after 1 month. I will find myself incapacitated to work. So much as I want to, I will find it difficult. These are the 4 projects. You tell me which 3 do you want me to work upon? So when we express it in that way, we will find that by being honest, we actually win the sympathy of the other. So in this way, we can always, it is always good to draw the boundaries, particularly in my experience of sharing this knowledge in the East and the West. I find that those who grew up in the Indian culture are very weak in drawing boundaries. And they find it very difficult to say no, whether it's to bosses, or it's to family members, or it is in relationships. And the consequence that people are putting their feet all over them and they are unhappy. Now, instead of that, if we are able to draw boundaries, I will work in my job to such an extent, but no more. It's not worth it. I will take care of my health to such an extent, but not more. So, if we can draw the boundaries in our life, it just simplifies life so much. This is the ability to say no. Just try and develop it. Of course, you don't have to go all out in the first time. First, test the waters. So start with a small no. And as you have the strength, you can go to bigger no's. And ultimately, if your superior or boss does not give you the liberty to say a no, then possibly that is the wrong superior or boss, and you need to be looking elsewhere. So, in any case, you have to be willing to take that gamble of saying no.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Setting those personal boundaries are very important, and also communicating that no effectively is pivotal to any superior employee relationship. Thank you.
So, no, another aspect of the student life is actually getting introduced to new situations. So most of us are international students, and most of students are coming outside their home for the first time, and interacting in new situations usually leads us to a different kind of stress. So what are your suggestions in handling stress that is from these new situations in unfamiliar environments?
Yes. My recommendation is that never be afraid of new situations, because that will lead to learning. I was I was touring a state where there was a lot of corruption, a state in India, where the politicians would force the government officials to follow their line. So, one IAS officer who joined the government service in that state, he was telling me that, Swamiji, I refuse to toe the line. Now, he was an IAS officer, the Indian Administrative Service. So he had joined at a reasonably higher level. But he said that because I was not fulfilling the wishes of the politicians, I was getting posted all around. I got 7 postings in 2 years. And the result of that was that my abilities and my skills just multiplied more than anybody else. So that is how it is. If you wish to grow, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. Now, if our attitude is that I will stay in an environment with which I am familiar, then remember that growth will be very slow. There is a researcher called Carol Dweck who has done research on mindset. And she's come up with some very good information. She says that little children were tested for whether they had the fixed mindset or the growth mindset. And in grade 1, they were asked, we will be giving you a problem to solve. Do you want an easy problem or a difficult one? Those with the fixed mindset, they said, we want the easy one because we don't want to fail. The feeling, I don't want to fail. So if it's an easy one, I'll solve it easily. And the children with the growth mindset, for them, avoiding failure was not important. The opportunity to learn and grow was more important. So they felt that they would like to be challenged. They said, yeah, if it's a difficult problem, that's the one I want. The same thing continues in life. When you enter college, researchers have tested. Okay, now you will need to do this subject to augment your regular courses. So, in this subject, do you want it to be easy or do you want it to be difficult? Those with fixed mindsets said, just keep it easy, I don't want to fail. And those with the growth mindset, they say, okay, let it be difficult. So it is only when we step out of our comfort zone that is when we grow and learning happens. So feeling a little bit of discomfort is not bad. Change your perspective to it. And if the discomfort is too much, you find that you're getting overwhelmed, don't hesitate to ask for help. You are not expected. If let's say you have come as an immigrant, you're not expected to be as comfortable as someone who grew up in the American environment. So it's not a crime to ask for help. And so many forums are available and so many support systems are there. You can look around and see the one that works best for you. Also remember that what you are comfortable with today, initially it was difficult for you and slowly it became easy. So today, what seems to be overwhelming to you, if you just stick on with inner determination, Within a few weeks or a few months, it will become natural and easy to you. That is how the learning happens. Either you stick to your comfort zone and remain stuck where you are, or you allow challenges to come your way and keep on growing. So, welcome the new experiences, welcome the difficulties, and keep moving ahead in your life.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. So, as you were mentioning about 5 goals in life, and it all comes down to like work and life. And oftentimes it becomes challenging to prioritize work goals over life goals. And you mentioned some solutions for that, like we need clarity, we need to write it down, we need to set the priorities 1 to 10. But how do we actually focus it in practice? Because sometimes writing is also not enough. So do you have any more suggestions to give towards that?
Yes, Geeta, when we talk about work goals and life goals, our natural response is to separate these two. This is my work and this is my life. And I need my work to be success to make my life a success. So, this is the attitude that practically everybody adopts. But then work is just a means to life. It is not fulfilling in itself. And supposing we could integrate these two and include our work goals in our life goals, how wonderful it would be. After all, a major portion of your life is spent at work. On the average, if people are even working 48 hours a day, 40 hours a week, think of how many thousands of hours they will be working all through their life. And if that work is miserable to be able to enjoy TGI Fridays, you see, the first time I came to America and I saw in a restaurant shop TGI Fridays. My God, what kind of a name is this? And then I saw it in the mall, then I saw it somewhere else. And then I saw it 5, 6 places in America. I asked, my curiosity got better of me, and I said, why does anybody name an eatery as TGI Fridays? So they said, Swamiji, it is not TGI Fridays, it is thank God it's Fridays. Now they've shortened it to TGIF. Why should they thank God it's Friday? Swamiji, because the 5 days, the working days are so terrible. On Friday evening, you feel liberated. So 2.5 days of sheer joy and then back to the grind. So he said, Swamiji, don't call anybody on Monday morning because everybody is in a bad mood. And the statistics reveal that the maximum accidents happen on Monday morning. But is that the way to live? 5 days of grind and 2 days of joy. And why not say TGIM? Thank God it's Monday. Now, how would you do that? If you could actually find meaning and purpose in your work. So, our ancient Indian culture has given us a very unique perspective on this, which is the philosophy of Karma Yoga. And the philosophy of Karma Yoga states Karma plus Yoga. What does that mean? You do your duties, your professional duties, your social duties, your familial duties, and at the same time, you keep your mind in yoga, in harmony, equipoised, full of sublime, harmonious, divine thoughts. So, naturally, when you sit in meditation, you focus on that. But what if you could keep that as your mental state alongside with doing your works? That would be the state of Karma Yoga. And it's the message of the Bhagavad Gita, Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhya Cha. Arjun, do your duty and keep your thoughts divine. So Swami Vivekananda put it so beautifully. He said, no work is secular. All work is devotion and worship. This will happen when we develop in life a noble intention beyond ourselves, beyond our little self. If we can find a higher purpose to life and then align all the activities of our life with it. Like, for example, in a mundane way, an Olympian who wants a gold medal, everything he or she does is aligned. Should I eat this? Will it help with my medal chances or not? Now, if you have got a noble goal, then everything you do ties up with it. And you can develop the same attitude to your work with the help of spiritual tools and spiritual knowledge. So that is a wonderful way of tying it all up, where the Bhagavad Gita says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yad juhosi dadasi yat. Look, whatever you do it in divine consciousness as an offering to the universe. That is the most beautiful way of integrating it.
Thank you, Swamiji. Such a deep insight on this question. I just thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Going back to your talk, I really like the example of the aviator Howard Hughes again, and the lack of the work-life balance that he was able to bring out later in his life. I believe you already touched upon a few aspects to this question, but I'll ask it regardless. How can we make cognizant decisions in our life as easily as we make it in our careers?
Okay. Pratik, the reason why you are able to make career-related decisions more easily is because you have thought so much about it. Since when you were a 5-year-old, people kept on asking you, my child, what will you become when you grow up? So you thought about it, you consulted people about it, and you received more and more information about it. The consequence was that when you have pondered and contemplated so deeply, the decisions come more easily. Now, while you were growing up, nobody asked you, what kind of life do you want? Or what do you wish to do with your life at all? And because we did not receive sufficient knowledge in this regard, and we did not ponder over it enough, the decisions become difficult. Now, to somebody else who has enough inputs in this matter, the decisions come easily. So, for example, for myself, it's very clear if what I want to do with my life, what I want to do in a situation, because I've thought enough about it. So, if we find that life-related decisions are difficult, where should I stay? What kind of marriage partner you need to look for? To what extent should these values be a part of your life, or what does your life stand for? The thing to do is to keep on increasing your knowledge about it. And that is where spiritual wisdom comes handy. If you take a look at the setting of the Bhagavad Gita, it was a dilemma where the listener, Arjun, is faced with a crisis, that there is now here an ethical dilemma, a moral dilemma. What is right? What is wrong? What is my duty? What should I do? So in that situation, what did he do? Rather than finding the solutions himself, he accessed a better source of knowledge, a spiritual teacher. And with The consequence was that the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita utilized that little window to reveal principles of the absolute truth. What is the purpose of life itself? And why is it? What is important? What is not important? So, factually, if we can find a meaningful purpose to our life, even the biggest of challenges are passed so easily. Like, for example, one 80-year-old gentleman came to me. He was a retired chief engineer of the state of Orissa. And he had been married for 45 years. And his wife had just passed away a couple of years ago. So they had been happily married, and her departure had left him so depressed. He was finding no meaning and purpose. And then he came to me to say, Swamiji, how can I handle this crisis in my life? So I pondered what to tell him. Supposing I say it's the will of God. Why is God so unkind? Supposing I say bad things happen to good people. They say, oh my God, then I'll be dejected about life. So I said, how to enthuse this person? Let me help him find purpose. I said, did your wife love you? He said, absolutely and completely. I said, in that case, supposing you had passed away before her, would she have been able to bear with the pain? Oh no, Swamiji, she would have been completely shattered. I said, look, by leaving before you, she was saved from the pain. The fact that you are surviving her has saved her from facing immense misery. All of a sudden, a light went on in his head. There is meaning in this difficulty. He found immense strength. He didn't need any more explanations. He just got up and thank you, Swamiji. He walked off. So, in the same way, when we discover a great purpose, then we are willing, like as somebody said, if you have a strong enough why, you are willing to tolerate any what. Now try and find that strong why, and your life purpose will very easily get resolved.
Definitely, Swamiji. Try to look up.
Thank you, Swamiji. Along the same direction, I have a three-part question. It might sound long, but what is spirituality? What is the importance of spirituality as we progress academically with our careers? And will we ever have to compromise one over the other?
Spirituality is that body of knowledge that enables you to understand who you are, what your values are, what your purpose is, what is your connection with something much bigger than yourself, the universe or a superior being, and what are the tools and techniques to bring out your best self. So, we are all familiar with IQ, intelligence quotient. Now, some people are mooting this term called SQ or spiritual quotient. Let me explain to you how these evolve through the different phases of life. When we are born as infants, the primary intelligence that develops is PQ or physical quotient, where we are just learning to control our body. We don't realize it, but balancing to sit is an effort, and learning to stand is again an effort, and then mastering walking again requires complete intellectual focus. But then when we entered school, grade 1 onwards, the focus changed to the IQ, or I would call it this cognitive intelligence, understanding problems, solving them of a variety of kinds. And then when we entered the adolescence years, life became complex and the emotional quotient started becoming important to understand your emotions, to understand the emotions of others, and to learn to master your emotions. But as young adults, the SQ starts rearing its head. What is this? The SQ starts this quest within you. That what are the big answers to the bigger questions in life? Why am I here? Who am I? What are my values? What is the interconnectedness of the universe, etc.? Now, this awakening happens to people at different stages in their life. For some people, it happens in childhood itself. To a lot, it happens in the early adulthood. To very many, it happens at the end of life. So that awakening of the SQ, a spiritual quotient, is not at all a bad thing. The spirituality will help, will enrich your life in so many ways. First of all, it will provide you with the means to understand yourself. Secondly, it will provide you with the means for becoming peaceful, for learning to cope with difficulties and with hardships and challenges. So often, without that spiritual strength, one blow and people break. While those who have nurtured their spirituality, they survive blow after blow after blow and succeed at the very end. So, spirituality provides us with the strength, the inner strength and grit and determination. Spirituality also changes our attitude towards others. We see them in a more positive light. We are more tolerant and lenient with others. We have a more healthy attitude towards the environment, which we see as a part of the entire system. And spirituality creates in us the service attitude. So, the more management theory is being churned, the more they are gravitating to this concept that the effective leadership style is servant leadership. So, you people are millennials. You know, when I was in college, the autocratic style of leadership was still prevalent. And today, it is completely rejected. You are not going to allow an autocratic boss to rule over you. The servant leader is the new successful style of management. And that humble facilitator is nurtured within you by spiritual maturity. This is just a tip of the ocean. Unfortunately, these things are not given the weightage and attention they should be given in the educational system. The Vedas said, look, dve vidye veditavye parachaiva paracha. There is no need to contradict science and spirituality. You can harmonize them. There is one material science that helps you understand external nature and you will harness it for your well being. And there is a spiritual science that helps you understand your inner nature and manifest the divinity within yourself. So, to reach the end goal of your life, you don't need to contradict it. Okay, now I've become scientific, so reject spirituality. They are both valid branches of knowledge, and by harmonizing and reconciling both of these, by simultaneously being scientific and spiritual, you will find the success, happiness, and fulfillment, and the ultimate attainment of the goal of your life.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. I completely resonate with the spirituality in our life and the benefits I personally have gotten through this. Moving on this, sometimes it's like we are going through this experience with spirituality, so we can see the benefit. But when you see other people who have not gone through the similar kind of experience, they don't practice meditation, yoga, or whatever. It's sometimes it becomes like a conflict, and it's like it is difficult sometimes to make people understand how spirituality can be very beneficial. I personally have seen my friends, family. So I want to ask you, this is my personal question. I want to ask you, how do we influence people, or how do we help our people to gain this message or the benefits of spirituality? Because I do find it challenging sometimes. Like, I have seen this in my life, but I want to help other people as well. So if you have come across such kind of issues, how do you deal with it, and how do you help people understand when they don't believe in what you believe?
Sure. It's a journey, and everybody is on the journey. Somebody may not be prepared for this wonderful knowledge right now. It, like you said, that it resonates so much with you, it just may not resonate with somebody. And even if you offer it, they may benefit from it in no way. However, we don't know with whom it would resonate and with whom it would not. And that is why it is natural that when we find something wonderful, we wish to share it with others. In fact, that is the recommended way for growing in it yourself. It's the more you share knowledge with others, the more your own knowledge grows. The more you share spirituality with others, the more you progress in nurturing your own spirituality. That is the simple formula of this universe, where it is in giving that you receive. So your desire to help others with it is most noble. There was an Indian saint called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, make two spiritual goals. Name ruchi, jive daya. Relish the divine bliss through spiritual progress for yourself and help others do the same. Now, your question is that how do we help others do it? See, the first step in this journey is always the knowledge. If people can be exposed to the knowledge, if they can have an opportunity to understand why something is beneficial, once the intellect is convinced, they will be inspired to try it out practically. But why should they hear it at all? Here is where the personal testimonials come in very helpful. In marketing, personal testimonials are so relevant. A salesperson gives a whole pitch, this product is like this is like this is like this, and the person remains unconvinced. I don't know whether he's telling the truth or not. And then your own friend says, hey, I used it, it worked for me. Say, really? That's what I wanted to hear. You get immediately convinced. So similarly, when you try it out, I'm sure you must be doing it, and as you benefit and then you share your benefit with your realizations and experiences with the others, that is really very helpful. So in today's day and age, it is so easy. All you need to do is some write-up or some video that clicked or that provides an epiphany moment, you share it, the link with your friend. Try hearing this. So they may ignore one of them, and then once in a while you give a second one as well, in very measured proportions. So it should, nobody wants to be indoctrinated. Nobody wants to be forced. So sharing this knowledge has to be a very sensitive and measured matter where you see the response of the other. Now, you share some piece of knowledge. If the person responded, you share something else. If the person responded, you have to lead them on. Just like a jeweler works very delicately while making something intricate, working with human beings is also a very intricate matter. And that is why spiritual teachers, they are like expert potters who just hammer enough to create the little dent necessary. And if you are inspired to help others, you keep on doing it. Slowly, slowly, you will find, you will develop in your armory the tools and techniques to help you in spreading this wonderful knowledge.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. It's very useful, I guess.
Thank you again, Swamiji. This has been a very enlightening talk and a very engaging conversation. And I guess as we conclude, do you have any small snippet or a secret ingredient that we can live by with, in our daily life as we move forward?
Well, Pratik, Geeta, and Shivaram, it has been my pleasure to engage in this conversation with all of you, because you are the youngsters of today are the future of tomorrow. So you are really the future of this world. And it is so encouraging to see you people spend your time and energy in these subjects, and to see the maturity with which you bring to this subject. So there's definitely great hope for the world. And you have asked for a little snippet. Well, I would like to say that one little priority, if we can create, it can put our whole life in perspective. And what is that? See, during the course of our discussions, in so many ways, I tried to show that practically the critical ball out of the five is the spiritual one, without which we can't manage our mind, we can't find purpose. So, if we can just dedicate a little portion of our daily routine to nurturing our spirituality, to illumining our intellect with divine wisdom, we will find that it will bring our life into focus. It will elevate our thoughts. It will charge us up. And then throughout the day, the intention we bring to our works, the consciousness we bring to it will change. And that is why all the religious traditions of the world have said that take out some time in isolation, where you shut out the whole world. So the Bhagavad Gita says, Vivikta Sevi Laghva Si. So just like you do a little bit of exercise every day to stay fit for your own mental, emotional fitness, if you were not a student, I'd say spend 1 hour every day. But if, as a student, if the demands are more, spend half an hour every day, where you drop everything else and make one goal to nurture your spiritual growth and see what a difference it makes. So I'd like to once again thank all of you for this. And it's a great honor, pleasure, and privilege to be a part of the Mental Health Action Week of Purdue University. Thank you so much for having me with you.
Thank you, Swamiji. The pleasure has been ours. And Yeah, I'd like to thank Shivram from Hindu Yuva, Geeta from IGRASP, and also Swapna from JKYog, and Rajan from PGSG and JKYog as well. So thank you all for making this event possible. And as we move forward with our lives, including spirituality and finding our fortress of solitude to making that more possible, I urge that everyone pay attention to their mental health and also uplift it. So thank you again. Have a nice rest of the week. And yeah, namaste.
Thank you, everyone.
Namaste.